Good morning, everyone. I'm calling the meeting to order of the full commission. I ask everyone, please, if you would, yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
I ask everyone to stand. I thank you for anticipating that. I welcome you here today. I've invited Commissioner and past President David Schaefer, my colleague and friend, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
With me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I thank everyone, and you may be seated. It is customary for us to reintroduce ourselves, although we are all friends and colleagues in many ways. It's just good to sort of break the ice that way. So again, good morning. I am Michael Griffin, son of Rini, and I'm Gene, dad of Abigail, husband of Christina, and I am also the chair today and clerk treasurer for the town of Highland. Welcome you.
I'm Todd Warner. I'm executive director for NERC, son of Rod and Vicky.
There you go.
Jim Todd Chesterton, no genealogy.
Greg Stinson, Town of Porter.
Kevin Brightsky, Porter Town Surveyor.
George Topple, Union Township Trustee.
Harry Tanis, Dyer Town Council.
Dave Schaefer, Munster Clerk Treasurer, and Daddy to Cold and Shadow.
That's
Survivor on the rescue dogs.
Andrew Harris, City of Crown Point. Bob Carnahan, Town Council, Cedar Lake.
Lori Colmar, Clerk Treasurer, Town of New Chicago.
Newly married, everyone. Let's it's now the Congratulations.
I'm Jan Bass with the Town of New York.
Jim Beatrice, City Council at Large, Michigan City.
Welcome.
Christian Jorgensen, St. John Town Council.
Tim Jones, Town Council.
Tom Schmidt, Miss Cheryl, Town Council. Jeff Larson, Porter County Council.
Chris Anderson, Mayor, City of Lake Station.
Good morning, John Costas, Mayor of Valparaiso.
Morning, Rick Powers, Deputy Commissioner, Northwest Door and Royal Court District.
Jack Gerald, Snyder Town Council.
Richard Hardaway, Maryville Town Council.
Tom Fath, Westville Town Council.
Will Farway, Lowell Town Council. Will Emerson, Lake County Surveyor.
Kyle Allen, Lake County Commission.
Justin Field, La Crosse Town Council.
Good morning, Karen Freeman-Wilson, your Mayor of Garrett.
Diane Noel, Wanatah Clerk Treasurer.
Jeff Benson, Beverly Shores Town Council.
We also like to have the guests who are here. Can we start with the other NDOT representative and move through the rows, please?
And Matt Dykshley, Communications Director in that Northwest.
Lindsay Quist, Capital Program Management Director in Northwest.
Ames resident.
Scott Weber, NERC staff.
Kathy Luther, NERC staff.
Mitch Barloga, NERC staff.
David Wright, Jerry Public Transportation Corporation.
Andrew Steele, Times.
Tim Zorn, Postal Union.
Celia Morales, City Dairy.
George Van Til, former NERC board member in the 70s and the 2000s.
Jody Melton, Director, KT River Basin Commission, and NERC staff.
Gene Mann, Clerk Treasurer, Audubon Duty.
It's Bill McCall, Metro Strategies.
Gary Evers, MC staff.
Justin Dell, Internal Affairs.
Nick Clark, connect with our QAW out of Porter.
Very good. So that's everyone. Sir, is our videographer? Can you say who you are? Oh, he's anonymous.
I don't know what's
Oh, and Mary Thorne is here. Mary, hi. Welcome, Mary. I also want to acknowledge, I believe that we have on the phone Joyce Newland from the Federal Highway Works Administration. Ms. Newland, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Welcome. It's good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you.
And I think somebody from NDOT's on.
Oh,
Yeah, this is Marion Wright with NDOT Planning.
Ms. Wright, it's good to have you here. I apologize for not knowing that that was the case, but you're just as welcome, even with my omission.
Thank you.
And I thank everyone for cooperating with that. I welcome you again. I renew that. The first item of business before us, I've been reliably advised that we do have a quorum, so the full commission's actions will be undertaken today, and I'm glad of that. That's very good. The imprimatur of the full commission is always welcome. The first business in order is consideration of the minutes that you have enrolled before you for March 16th of 2016. These are the minutes of the Executive Board meeting. The interesting parliamentary fact is it's not confined to the Executive Board members only to approve them, particularly with the full commission, which is the full and most authorized body. So if someone wishes to, the chair will entertain a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion on that? Is there any objection or discussion? Hearing none, as many as in favor of the minutes say yes.
Yes.
As many as opposed say no. The yeses and the aye has it, the minutes are approved. It is now time for the report of the chair. I'll be very brief. This would have been the time that I wanted to speak to you or have you reconsider a sense of the commission resolution. I still hope that that can be forwarded. I need to confer a little bit with the mayor of East Chicago. The subject matter of that, for those who do not remember, was an appeal to the governor with regard to the greater alacrity that we hope that somebody could inject in the process of getting the Klein Avenue Bridge to be moved forward. But we want to make sure that we artfully word that so as to not mischaracterize all of the actors that have a role in that. And I appreciate Mr. Powers taking a look at that as well and contributing to that thought process. My expectation is that our next meeting, it will be ready, and I'm hopeful that there'll be readiness on the part of the commission to take that up. And that concludes the report of the chair. It's now time for the report of the executive director, Ty Warner. We welcome to hear your words.
Well, thank you, Mr. Griffin. The sense of expectation is overwhelming. That's great. Thank you. First of all, welcome. Happy spring. Beautiful outside, and I think this meeting will be mercifully short, so you can go out and enjoy the rest of the wonderful spring day. First note, in accordance with the coming of spring, the community tree launch, you should have received an email about this tree planting initiative. Launches next Wednesday, I believe, April 26th in East Chicago, correct? So look for that. Kathy Luther has worked hard on securing this grant to be able to replant trees that have been affected by the emerald ash borer. And so great launch program. That was very well received when it was presented earlier. So that launches next Wednesday in Chicago on April 26th. Also launching, just a quick note, some of the mayors heard this already, but the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority is launching their Moving Forward program 3.0. They're going to focus on Lake County. But we'll get you information on that as it becomes available. This integrates housing, energy efficiency, and transportation. So there's quite a bit of money involved with that. They develop a team that will then make proposals, and I guess the previous programs, which I only just recently learned about, 1.0 and 2.0, have been really successful. So 3.0 is on the way. So heads up about that. Just a quick note on the federal level, the consolidation bill, the MPO consolidation bill. There was actually an incorrect story in a local paper that is not represented here today, so it's not one of those two. But that, if I can use a Monty Python line, it's not dead yet. It's getting much closer. Again, House bill, Senate bill, mirrored language to repeal that law. Both garnered great bipartisan support. We're still very hopeful, but it is not dead yet. But hopefully very soon. We received copies of letters that were signed both for the Senate and House subcommittees on appropriations for transportation, housing, and urban development regarding the capital investment grant program. This includes New Starts and the Core Communities program, which is important to projects that NICD is trying to work on. And it just is very comforting that our representatives have our back. Both signed, Kisbowski put forward one that was talking about proposed cuts from the Office of Management and Budget to 2017, and had other representatives sign on to that. And then there was a larger House letter signed by my count, 93 representatives for the fiscal year 2018 proposed budget, which cuts those same programs, objecting to that. So that gives me a lot of hope that Congress will not allow those cuts to continue in the final budget when it's released. And on the Senate side, there were 33 senators, including Senator Donnelly, that signed on to that letter. So very thankful to Representative Kisbowski and Senator Donnelly for their support. That's really all I have. Some of us will be, the staff will be at the TEDx conference this afternoon, which I'm a huge supporter and fan of, and so maybe we'll see some of you there. Blair Milo was one of the inaugural speakers at the first one, I think 3 years ago, I believe. and set it off to a great start. So great thing for our region, has been a great way to kind of step back. If you've seen TED Talks in the past or TEDx Talks, you know how those go, and a great thing for our region, and we're looking forward to that this afternoon. That's all I have, unless there's any other questions.
No questions. Thank you for the report, Ty, very much. The next business in order is the Legislative Committee report, and we're happy that we're joined by Mayor Milo. Are you prepared to offer your report at this time?
Absolutely.
Welcome, and do so, please.
Thank you. I was actually just looking to see that my last understanding was that on the road funding bill, there is an agreement that has been come to, that it's been in conference committee. I haven't seen the update just yet. The last I knew, as I saw on Twitter last night, was that it was something that local governments should be pleased to see. There's been a lot of discussion that's gone back and forth with, I think, some of the key differences for locals to understand between the Senate and the House version was the match money in the community crossings program. The House version had changed the community crossings match ratio from 80-20, or from 50-50 to 80-20, with locals presenting 20% of the match money, and then the Senate version changed it back to the 50-50 version. I had understood that there was some discussion about having cities under the size of 50,000 would potentially have 60-40 would be the split ratio. I don't know where that ended up because this has all been ongoing throughout the week as to what the final decision was going to be. And I saw in some of the reports that were coming out yesterday that it's moving all of the sales tax generated from gasoline into going towards roads, that it phases it in over, I think, a 7-year period. But that was also a discrepancy between the two versions of the Senate and the House version. So again, I don't know where that ended up because I understand that today that was when they were going to be addressing that roads bill. So I think that's kind of where things are at on the roads bill for the state side. Double tracking has moved forward very rapidly and in a very productive fashion, and there were some differences in, I think it was Representative Slater's bill, House Bill 1144, that really combined the TOD, or Transit-Oriented Development concept, into some of the double tracking as well, and creating what they call Transportation Development Districts, or TDDs, that would set up TIF-like districts around the stations that are along the double tracking route, and in those TDDs, that the increment would be that's captured there, that's the growth and assessed value would be used to pay back the investment that has been made in order to create the double tracking. So that was, I think, very positively received throughout the process. There were some differences as to how the participating members were going to all fund their representative shares, or respective shares, I should say, throughout the process. And so that was still being negotiated in some of the conference committee, but I think that that has also moved forward very positively. So I'm very excited to see, I think, some really positive momentum with the double tracking. And so I think those were kind of the real focus areas that we were looking at on the state side this time around. On the federal side, at the last meeting, we had a lot of discussion about the president's submission on the federal budget, and just as Ty mentioned, we're continuing to watch that, and certainly there's been a lot of discussion around it. From my perspective, or I guess at the local perspective, then I reached out to our city team and have certainly fielded input from those who have had impacts that they've seen to local government that they want to see addressed. I think that with what we're seeing happen at the federal level, it's important for us to kind of see where some of this is going right at the moment, because there's a lot of items that are being addressed that are really kind of taking priority, I think, at the time. They were still in the process of addressing healthcare bill. I think there's still under discussion of that taking priority, and then tax reform. They're going to have to address the budget here at some point. We certainly want to be proactive in that process. So we are communicating with our delegation and can certainly grow that communication to others across the state delegation and any others that we may need to do. But I think that we just want to make sure that we're being strategic about it as we see where Congress is going and what kind of items that they're digging into. That with the submission that was provided by the president, I think the trend that we've seen for many years is regardless of the president or regardless of members of Congress, it's just one of those executive legislative differences where you have the executive who presents the budget and then the legislature does what it's going to do to the budget. And so that's where we want to just work with those members of Congress to try and have good conversations. And I think that they've always been receptive to that and will continue to do so. With that, I will actually be out in DC next week that I've been asked to testify on the experience of the American worker. And so that will be something that I'm excited to bring forward some particularly Northwest Indiana representations of stories to be able to share there. It's in the House Republican Policy Committee, so looking forward to that. In that time frame, certainly we'll be having some conversations with our delegation and any others that I will continue to share the priorities that we've had here and any other items that may come forward. And if anybody has anything else that they would really like for me to continue to share on that trip, then certainly welcome that feedback either today or if anybody wants to send a message. Always happy to receive those and pass that along. So I think that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Could I add one thing to the road bill? I mentioned in previous meetings, so I just want to follow up on a previous comment I made, that the MPOs in Indiana were concerned about earlier language of that bill, providing the flexibility for communities that you had in the past. I'm happy to say that at least the last version I saw, the language, and it was just a few lines that the MPOs as a group in Indiana submitted, were incorporated into legislation to try to address that issue. So I think that concern is no longer a concern.
I thank you both. We thank you for your leadership too. We appreciate that, Mayor Milo. Thanks for the report. Next item of business before us is the receipt of the Environmental Management Policy Committee from the Vice Commissioner and Venerable Jeff Benson.
Thank you. The Environmental Management Policy Committee met on the first Thursday of the month, as it usually does. You're welcome to attend all of them at 9 a.m. in this room. The minutes from the prior meeting are in your packet. At this last meeting, we had a presentation by the EPA on lead in water, specifically about Flint and also about East Chicago. There was a large meeting yesterday about that and how the progress is going. So that's 2 meetings in a row that we've had EPA present on lead issues in East Chicago, trying to make a louder voice, and they are making some very good progress. We also talked about the priorities of the skinny budget for the legislative committee. So we'll give you our list before you go to Washington, Blair. In the president's proposed skinny budget, there's a lot of things, a lot of cuts, and what we discussed was there's some that will get noticed by this body without our help, and there's others that may not. The Beaches Act, the monitoring of the beaches, the E. coli, that money is being proposed to be cut. NOAA, coastal program, the GLRI, EPA, et cetera, and as these priorities come to our vision with hexavalent chromium and other things, and the response to it, these are very important things that this whole region with the coastal resiliency, erosion, climate change, other things like that, there's millions and millions of dollars that we benefit from these programs, and that's all we're trying to make our legislative committee and this body be aware of to try to lean on it. It brings a lot of money to this area to clean up and help us have a better quality of life. So that concludes the report for the EMPC.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your economy of presentation. I'm now to recognize the chair of the Technical Planning Committee, Kevin Reese. Mr. Reese, I know I saw you. There you are. We welcome your presentation.
The Technical Planning Committee met April 11th and heard a presentation from Kathy Luther regarding the protected natural and rural area goals of the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan. We've been addressing the goals of the 2040 plan in each one of our meetings just to keep us up to date and all in sync as far as our future planning. These will continue this year and into the next. I'd like to add too, and I'm sure Mr. Powers will address this, but NDOT had an open house later on the 11th at LaPorte, which was outstanding. It was dealing with the statewide transportation improvement program, and I'm sure he's got some comments on that. Please note the public comment period for the 2040 Comprehensive Plan Update Companion and the 2018-2021 Transportation Improvement Program runs through this Friday, April 21st. For details, please see Mitch Barloga. He's the man in the front row. There are 3 actions for consideration today. The first involves Resolution 1708, found on pages 9 to 15, the congestion management process for the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan Companion Update, Amendment Number 4. Scott Weber will explain this.
Thank you. On pages 9 to 15 of your agenda packet, you'll find Resolution 1708 about the congestion management process for Amendment Number 4 to our 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan Update Companion. Just to be clear, this pertains to an action that isn't formally expected in terms of that actual amendment until the May meeting. But this is a prerequisite action. In order for this board to even take action for that amendment, it would first have to find that we have covered the congestion management process requirements for Amendment Number 4. And so Amendment Number 4 would include 4 projects. Those 4 are the Ileana corridor, moving it to a year 2040. Right now we have it in as 2020. It would move the I-65 added travel lanes project southern extent from State Road 10 back up to State Road 2 in Lake County. So again, that was unused action that this board took last year to extend the I-65 added travel lanes, to expand it from 2 lanes in each direction to 3 lanes south of State Road 2. Now it would only go as far south as State Road 2 as far as the contract is concerned. Another project would be the Nickty-Westlake corridor, and then finally the 4th project is the Nickty double tracking project. And of those 4, only the first 2, the Ileana corridor and the I-65 added travel lanes projects, pertain to the congestion management process, because those are the only 2 road projects. And so this action would request that the approvals of the congestion management processes from prior findings of our former Transportation Policy Committee on November 19th, 2013, for the Ileana corridor and the I-65 added travel lanes project as far south as US 231. And then on March 18, 2014, our former Transportation Policy Committee approved the congestion management process for the remaining part of that I-65 added travel lanes segment from US 231 down to State Road 2. And so what this action is to find that those previous congestion management processes, that since they cover the full extent of all the roadway projects in Amendment 4, suffice for the congestion management process for this amendment. And so you'll find on pages 11 to 15 the technical report of those previous congestion management processes. And what we're trying to show is that only by building the projects, the Ileana corridor and the I-65 added travel lanes projects, do you sufficiently reduce congestion above and beyond what you would be able to achieve if you didn't build the projects, like increased carpooling and growth management, etc. And so we also looked at a case study, as you can see on table 8, of a similar type of project that added a travel lane on the New Jersey Turnpike in Middlesex County, New Jersey, and the before and after the travel lane was added, what that did to travel time, and you can see there was a pretty substantial improvement. And so what this is just trying to show that those congestion management processes that covered the full extent of this project that's already in Amendment 4 will suffice for the congestion management process requirement for Amendment 4. And so the Technical Planning Committee last week on April 11th approved, give a favorable recommendation to this, and so the action would be to request that this body formally states that, that the former congestion management processes cover the requirement for this amendment. So I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
So
please.
this would be in support of the Atlanta and the connecting it from Lowell or thereabouts into Illinois.
You want me to answer?
Yes, please.
Okay,
It's
so this is
informal
consistent. So the Ileana is a bi-state project that's been all along, state of Illinois, state of Indiana. And so this is actually just to be consistent with what Illinois has already done in the Chicago region. The Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning pushed back the year to 2040 for the open to traffic date. And so we are being consistent with that, and that is what the Federal Highway Administration, and we have Ms. Newland on the phone to address that issue. But this is so that it looks consistent across the state line, so that if this project were to continue in the future, that we show that bi-state consistency, since that was the spirit of this project all along.
I thank the Commissioner for his question. I thank staff for his response. Ms. Newland, did you want to add anything to the presentation? Ms. Newland?
Just that because the Ileana is connected to the state, the Illinois, we just wanted to make sure everything was consistent with what CMAP had, and so that's all.
Very good. Thank you for that. And may God bless you all day. See, it came once, I covered you. Is there any other questions of staff or about the presentation? I thank you for that presentation. Mr. Brietzke, did this come out of the committee with a favorable recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, the TPC recommends adoption of Resolution 1708.
All right, I know, I'm going to just say this because not to be pedantic, but to just inform. The most current Robert's Rule says, and the old ones used to say, that a committee of more than one making a presentation before a body is the motion and second if it's favorable. But it also recognizes in addition 11 what custom is. Now, it's been our custom that even with the favorable recommendation, that's the desire of this body to have a motion and a second. So I'm going to respect custom, and the chair will now ask her if there's a motion and then a second to approve this.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 1708. Is those who have moved in favor of it wish to comment in its favor? Does anybody wish to speak against it? It seems there's readiness for the vote. As many as in favor say aye.
Aye.
As many as opposed say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. And I thank you for the presentation. Mr. Brietzke, please continue.
The next action for consideration is Resolution 1709, found on pages 16 to 18. The 35th amendment to the fiscal year 2016-2019 Transportation Improvement Program. Gary Evers will explain this amendment.
Thank you. This amendment is the last amendment to be presented in front of you under this tip. This is significant because we've never made 35 amendments.
Let's hope that's the last.
It's been a regular mill. First project we have is a Hobart TAP-funded project. It's a stormwater outfall and best management practices project to improve water quality in storm drainage within the city of Hobart. They're asking for some additional PE funds, jumping up from about 37,000 federal to 107. Second project is some additional funding for the city of Hammond on PE work for their Marquette Greenway connector project, just a small increase of $20,000. Third project is something very unique that we've not seen before. This is a full-fledged rail crossing, gates, lights on a bicycle and pedestrian trail to be installed on Singing Sands Trail in Michigan City. The next block of projects are projects that we are including in our Unified Planning Work Program for staff for next year. The first one is the CMAQ funding for our air quality public education program. Next one is a continuation of funding for fuel purchases for the Dunes Learning Center. The third one is our additional funding for our origin destination study that we use to update our transportation model that Scott handles. And the final one is the acquisition of software for automation of the tip. We are jumping into the 21st century on this one, and it doesn't come a day too soon. And finally, we're adding in one NDOT project. This is remarking and signage along I-80-94 in the vicinity of the interchange with I-65. This will essentially push people in the westbound lane to a southern lane. It will free up some capacity where northbound I-65 merges onto westbound 80-94 and let those merges occur more safely. This was vetted, actually all of these projects were vetted by the ICG, including state and federal reps, and were exposed to a public comment period. No comments were received, and this amendment was recommended for approval by the Tech PC at their meeting on the 11th. So we would ask for your approval of this as well.
I thank you, Mr. Evers. Are there any questions from the commission for Mr. Evers or Mr. Britze? I think that people feel some readiness. Then, keeping with custom, the chair will entertain a motion for action on this matter.
So moved.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the report and Resolution 1709 before you. Those who have moved in favor, do you wish to speak in favor? Those who have opposition to this, do you wish to speak? No speech being heard or asked for. As many as in favor of Resolution 1709, say yes.
Yes.
As many as opposed, say no. The yeses have it. The resolution is adopted. We had our unprecedented 35th amendment, and I thank the commission. Mr. Britze, I believe you have one more.
One more resolution on amendment. The final action for consideration is Resolution 1710 on pages 19 to 21 in your packet. The funding allocation is requested by the Transportation Resource and Oversight Committee, known as TROC, for Lake and Porter counties. Gary Evers will explain this amendment.
I'll try at least. We are in the process of closing out our state fiscal year 2017 funding. On the highway side of things, we have to have all of our requests for fund obligations submitted by the 1st of May. TROC for LaPorte County met on April 6th. TROC for Lake and Porter met on the 10th. We had not yet had our final letting until the 12th. So TROC Lake Porter was dealing with some tentative numbers. The letting that occurred on the 12th was City of Gary's Airport Road reconstruction project. That project came in at $1.1 million federal under our estimates. So altogether, what was released by the TROC committee in Lake and Porter, combined with the overage or underage from the Gary project, gave us roughly $2 million that needed to be put to good use. And we found places for it. Not only did we honor all the requests that were agreed to by the TROC committee, we are proposing to add these new projects to the 2017 TIP because they were not specifically authorized by you in a prior resolution 1635 adopted in December 16. We are using what we call the B list that was meticulously pieced together by TROC and yourself, and vetted by yourselves, and are pleased to report that we are able to fund the first 4 projects. off of that list. Similarly, in LaPorte County, there was a grand total of roughly $63,000 left over, and the group there agreed to fund one pickup truck, a snowplow for the city's transit utility. So we believe that we have found places to put all the money. We have one more letting to go, though, on May 10th, and that is an NDOT project, but it contains components in there for Gary Public Transportation Corporation bus shelters and improvements, crosswalk improvements in the vicinity of IUN, and lighting along State Road 53 that to the tune of almost $3 million. So if there's money left over from that, I'm not sure, we're just gonna find a place to put it.
The chair is heartened that the B list was able to get funded. We knew that we developed those in the hope that they might be, so I'm very happy about that. And while they may be called the B list, they have objectives and purpose, so nobody needs to think they're diminished by that. Those are literally the kinds of things that we thought if there was surplus is an unusual concept in finance to say these days, but if there was ready money, that became happy. So I appreciate both the committee's and the staff stewardship over that. Does this come with a favorable recommendation from the TPC?
Mr. Chairman, it does. The TPC recommends adoption of Resolution 1710. And bear in mind, the Fed and the state have enabled us to use monies rather than losing them.
Yes.
So without this, and without these expenditures, the money simply would leave our area.
And on the other side of the coin, transit is in great need of extra money for capital equipment. So it actually helps us in multiple ways here. I will point out, though, again, to reiterate, I've got one more letting to go, and if there is additional money, we are going to internally figure out another place to put it, and we'll likely go to transit, whatever is next on that list. That's the TIP amendment. There will be another TIP amendment. Yes, there'll be Amendment 36 that we will issue as an emergency amendment under our existing procedures, which authorizes the executive director in certain limited circumstances to amend the TIP by letter.
And this is a circumstance, we're coming up against a hard deadline for these expenditures. So I really appreciate the staff's pursuing this and the creation of this new committee, the B list work. It's phenomenal.
I commend everyone on that as well, and I thank you. Is there any questions that commission members wish to pose to staff or the chair?
I have two questions.
I will recognize the mayor from LaPorte, the hub of awesome, and then Jeff Benson.
The first question being on the TIP amendment, do we need to do something today as far as authorizing the executive director to then do those emergency changes? Okay,
No.
So the deadline's not.
One of the, and I need to wait until this Gary project has been led, so I know what the exact balance will be. My guess is that it will come in under, we'll have even more money to redistribute.
Okay. The second question I have is that I understand that the funds are use or lose, so appreciate the diligence that has been done to expend those funds to make sure they're used and not lost. But I do notice on here that on the attachment to Resolution 1710, there's two notes that say for the Chicago UZA available balance that it's up to $203,042 may be carried into 2018. And under Michigan City report, it says up to $22,741 may be carried over into 2018. Are there limits to what can be transferred?
Yes, because in March, toward the end of March, NDOT gave us notice that our apportionments had been increased by those amounts.
Okay, so that amount can be transferred.
Correct.
But the rest of this money couldn't be transferred.
Right, precisely.
Okay. those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions and insightfulness to clarify that. Did you need to say something?
I was just going to underscore what Gary already said, just in answer to your first question, that the parameters for emergency tip amendments are spelled out, so there's no additional approval needed. It's unique.
So the authority basically is there.
There are two situations that are covered by that in the emergency process. The first one is imminent threat to health and safety. If waiting another month for the board to meet would create a health and safety situation, such as a bridge that needed emergency repair or something, and that's where we use that. The second one is the loss or lapse of funds. This was something we wised up to in the Stimulus Act, that we had to move more quickly in some cases to avoid losing money. So those are the two narrow circumstances where we would issue an emergency amendment.
Commissioner Benson?
So I've noticed a lot of new faces in the room, and I see there's a folder of appointments, and what I wanted to do was to try to very quickly bring them up to speed, because T-Rock doesn't mean anything to anybody who hasn't been here.
I know it sounds like a Saturday morning special or a great band name from the 70s. It's kind of like a process.
And
I used to
also,
play for T-Rock.
and also to explain sort of very quickly in the vernacular what just happens. There's a lot of hurdles. We get a bunch of money that we get to allocate to projects that make it over all the hurdles and pre-approvals. There's a new law in the state that if it isn't spent, it goes away. So we made a process for a B list, another set of projects that were submitted by all the communities that got through all the hurdles and are waiting in the wings for money to fall from the sky. What just happened was money fell from the sky, things come in less, and so they got moved to the B list. And the committee where the fights are for the money is T-Rock, and then it's approved by the TPC before it comes.
And there, T-Rock is Transportation Resource
Thank you. I was
Oversight.
going to say it's an acrostic or an acronym.
And those two groups, one for LaPorte, another one for Lake and Porter, were created in the committee restructuring effort of last year, I believe. So
Enabled the year before and implemented last year.
Yes.
So that you probably got what was happening, but that's what just happened, is we reallocated the money to, or I think, we haven't voted yet, reallocated the money to the B projects, and there still might be some fall out from the sky that would be reallocated again.
Precisely.
And I thank the Commissioner.
To the existing B-list people.
Pardon?
To the existing B-list people.
Yes.
If there's any leftover, those people already on the B list.
Right, there was an extensive list, this only
I
picked
know,
up the top.
I know our placement on that list was not favorable, but.
Yeah.
But it was unbiased. It was judiciously arrived at.
Well, I never meant to impugn the intention.
I thank you, Commissioner.
Only the situation.
It would be in order at this time.
I would make a motion to
Thank you.
approve Resolution 1710.
It's been moved to approve 1710. Is there a second?
Second.
With the motion and the second, is there any discussion in favor of the motion by the proponents of it? Is there any discussion from those opposed to it? Hearing none, as many as in favor of the resolution to adopt, the motion to adopt the resolution, please say aye. Aye. As many opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Resolution 1710 is adopted. And I thank the chair of the TPC and its commission, its body members, and I thank the staff also for helping with that. Do you have anything further, Mr. Kritzky?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, for having the board commissions vote on these resolutions. I believe the elected officials should be accountable as well as our committees. So I think as a council of governments, we're taking some responsibility for all these actions as well. The next meeting for Technical Planning Committee will be Tuesday, May 9 at 9 a.m. in NERC's Lake Michigan room, this room. And this concludes the report of the Technical Planning Committee.
I thank you again. The next business in order for our consideration is the report that we welcome from Rick Powers, who is the Deputy Commissioner of the Indiana Department of Transportation, LaPorte District. Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, last meeting I said the same thing, but I'm absolutely appreciative for your remarks. And your knowledge of Robert's rules and everything else that's come along.
It's an occupational hazard for a nerd.
It's actually, if I may go back to the 70s, it's very cool.
Thank you.
Just, I really, I'm enjoying it. So I've been a good year so far, just listening. A couple of things. One, Lindsay Quist, you probably heard when we were doing introductions, is back and has been away for a while, and she was missed terribly, and I'm so glad she's back with us, so she may even speak to some of what we heard at the STIP. Actually, I'm going to probably punt to Matt because he was running it. I will say that, let me go through a few things, I'll just let him speak to that, but in the past, staff had outnumbered citizens most often, and this year that was not the case. It was very well attended, it was held on April 11th. A lot of comment, favorable comment. I think it went very well, and in fact, I'll just go ahead and let him speak to it now if he wants. Just any comments that came out of, I guess, proved of importance to this group, but it was a very well-attended meeting, so I don't know if it was us advertising differently, the fact that we've, oh, by the way, hit 60,000, I believe, members on our Facebook page, or followers, or whatever we are on Facebook. Again, I'm from the 70s, so I don't know exactly how all that works. Is it 60 now?
Yeah.
So possibly there, I mean, which just blows the rest of the state away as far as membership in Facebook and how we use social media in this area. We are very active in that regard, and Matt has a lot to do with that. So with that, Matt, do you have anything to offer on the STIP meeting?
Yes, it was very well attended. As Rick was saying, past years, we had, a dozen, maybe 2 dozen tops, and this time we had upwards of 100 people come by. So we're very happy to see that. A lot of good conversation on the STIP, but also just general conversation on what it does and how we can help people. So we were very happy with that. So we did do some different things in advertising this year, and hopefully we'll continue those in the next coming meeting as well. If anybody has questions, feel free to let me know.
Other questions of the commissioner?
I'll just make the comment, the deadline for comments is May 1st, so there's plenty of time to comment on this as the elected officials. You have certain interest, I'm sure, so this is the time.
That's a very good point. We do, all of you would like to hear from you, so again, it helps us guide our direction of what we're doing in our future. Second, not so much a positive point, the highway lighting wiring condition continues, and we, again, beg your help, solicitation, anyone who has salvage yards, please make them aware. I personally, again, I'm not an over-regulatory guy, but when it comes to salvage and pilfering and those types of things, licensing opportunities and people looking undercover for the strange kind of wire that NDOT uses to put along lighting, I would ask, where'd you get that wire? Where'd you get all that refrigeration copper? Where'd you get all those kinds of things that come through those type of facilities? And I probably should just leave it there. But your help would be welcome in that regard to your local police departments. State police is working with us. We're doing our best. Again, I hope this individual does not get hurt in the act of committing this crime, but they are committing a crime, and I hope they're caught as well, equally as much. But we are doing our best to replace the wire is probably the bigger point to you, that we have dark areas and intersections that are dangerous because they're now lit. So we are working diligently as we identify to replace the wire, get the lighting back. So if you do find some, please get a hold of Matt or call our customer service area if you know of locations that we may not know of, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. But just wanted to bring you up to date on that. The third area will be another public comment period coming up on April 27th on the I-65 widening project, which will be at Crown Point High School in the cafeteria. At 5 p.m., I'm sorry. So if you are interested in that project and what's going on, that project should kick off in the first part of May, I believe. Is that right? That's correct. So again, that would be the final public comment period. So if you have anything to offer on that project, please make your constituents aware. Okay, that is it. On the Plan B list, we call it an NDOT in the trade, we call that shelving. Or what the staff really doesn't like is the term re-rack. It's those numbers of modifications, but it happens. I think that's all I have. Thanks for letting me present it. Oh, and if I could, I would like to see you two gentlemen before you leave on your opening comments on the resolution.
Thank you.
I have some input for you, please.
I appreciate that very much. And we thank the Deputy Commissioner NDOT. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, Rick, how long will it be till we have 3 lanes way on 65 to Indianapolis?
Well, it would be our desire, and again, that there'd be 3 lanes border to border on, I would say, there and east-west on 70. If you look at how Indiana is set up, being the crossroads of America and the interstate system that comes through, it's going to come down to funding, what funding looks like. It's been identified as a need for adding capacity. We've been focusing on maintenance for obvious reasons because of funding. The General Assembly's in session. Those are ideas. The governor has identified some of those areas as priorities. So I would say the timeline I can't really speak to, because the timeline will be governed by the funding and the funding mechanism we use to get there. And all of you know that's gone from what, again, the mayor of the Hub of Awesome, I love that, brought up, is the point of how we're funded often determines the timeline that we'll use. And again, we've heard everything from gas tax increase to user tax to real tax for locals to tolling to any number of opportunities, and in the transportation world, that's what we look for. So where we land in regard to that and the studies that would have to take place would determine a timeline. I can say this, it seems like I may be speaking around it, it's just I don't know. Because again, the money will determine when and how we can respond to that. We do have some studies, I will tell you, in those 2 areas, I-65 and 70, I think 4, relative to what that would look like and what funding it would take to go 3 lanes from, again, border to border, not just to 65. We're trying to get state line to state line because it's needed on both of those. So I do know the governor has identified those 2 corridors. So that is a positive, having the interest of the governor's office and, of course, bringing our interest to the issue.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'm sure if you had money, you'd do it tomorrow. It's certainly not an INDOT issue. It's a matter of funding. But I'll tell you, that is a dangerous and stressful drive. And it's hard to equate it with south of, I've driven all those roads, 70 and this and that, but boy, it's just so intense. It sort of takes the wind right out of you when you're driving it. In fact, I know a lot of people are taking county roads now, and even 31's become a very popular road down to Indianapolis. So we do have some other options that I really actually work pretty well, but boy, that's quite a...
Indeed. And we are taking a bite out of it with this widening project. It's a small bite, but that's what we've been able to do based on our maintenance requirements. And there are some widening in and around Lafayette. So it is getting there. It's not getting there at the pace that any of us in this room would like. I made that drive every weekend for 6 years when I worked in Indianapolis, and feel your...
Yeah, in reality, I mean, it's easy to say this, but it should have been done 10 years ago because it's just such a vital and crucial and intense road. But it's nice to see that we're making progress. I do appreciate that, and I think further investment in that would be beneficial for the state.
It is on the list. I will tell you that. It is on
Well,
the
the
list.
need is evident, the purse is light, as they say. Actually, I'm happy to recognize you. Commissioner Benson wanted to make a comment related to that conversation, and I believe that Commissioner Tun wanted to be recognized, and then I'll go to you, Commissioner Smith.
In the amendment that we passed today, we actually worked the opposite. So in prior meetings, we've approved the idea of an added travel lane all the way down to 10, and now we've backed up and only taken that off the table, pushed it out, and so the question about the Ileana, they were pushed together for the congestion mitigation and air quality stuff, but so we've just gone the opposite way. We've made it all the way down to 10, and now we're coming back to 2, so that's what I wanted to say.
I didn't interject, but just again, it goes back to timing. I don't think there's less of a commitment, just to be clear, to not do those added lanes.
That was about aligning with resources more than our...
Sure. Got to be present.
Commissioner Tun?
It would be probably, for those of us in Porter County, worth mentioning that there's a significant repaving project about to kick off, and having, I would call it a welcome inconvenience through Chesterton last year. It's toll road south on 49 will be actively resurfaced, I understand?
That is correct.
And so those of us that drive that daily need to be aware of that. It can be a challenge, but it's a welcome one.
Indeed, and I would say that's why I didn't mean to brush over maintenance, because maintenance is a priority. You see the barrels, the overlays, the light reconstructs, the things that we're doing, even some of the subsurface infrastructure and drainage work that we're doing, bridge work. It is happening. It's not at a capacity, but again, that is a very expensive proposition in and of itself, taking care of what we have. We don't have what we need to do that yet. So I would say, that just to make that point, I mean, just the inventory we had, we are challenged to maintain, so that we are also awaiting the outcome of this General Assembly to determine where we land there and what our maintenance program looks like. So to your point of that overlay, that is maintenance. And I know when we see the barrels come out, we're frustrated by traffic and frustrated by sitting. Do not pull your cell phones out, please. Sit there patiently and think of better things than texting, because we've had a lot of that going on lately. And again, I try to keep that in front of us as well, because it is very dangerous and it's just not a good thing to be doing. But again, the point is that maintenance is underway now. You do see a lot of barrels. Please be patient. It is for a good thing, and I always remind you, you asked for this. So you asked for this. So
It's a welcome
you have asked.
Welcome inconvenience. Thank you.
That's that.
Well stated, Mr. President.
You're done with snowplow.
The other comment.
I didn't know you were complete. Go
I
ahead.
haven't completed my comments, but I will if you'd rather.
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I want to extend a thank you to NDOT for their prompt action at the persistent and very troublesome intersection of 49 and Porter Avenue with the flooding. That was, we shared some thoughts on that not more than 2-3 weeks ago, and the problem has been resolved. We certainly appreciate the promptness and the efficiency of your actions on that. So, thank you. It's appreciated. You and your department. Matt was very helpful. You were very helpful. And the situation has been remedied, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tom.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes, Mr. Powers, I know that I get a lot of calls. What are the requirements for, and I have Route 30 and Route 41 actually going through the middle of my town. What is the requirement on the yellow flashing lights for the yield on Route 30? I have one of those lights now, west of 41. And all the way from Dyer all the way to Maryville, naturally we have several, 25 different lights going through there. What are the requirements to look at getting more of them to yellow flashing light in some of the non-heavy traffic intersections?
Hopefully Lindsay can speak to the signal warrants, because they're different depending on the type of signal. But it's based on warrants and traffic volume, timing, time of day, any number of things. In fact, Lindsay, are you back there?
Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head like the specific warrants for the flashing yellow arrow, but there are specific criteria that they look at for as far as turning movements and traffic and congestion, and then also with the crash history of the intersection as well, if it would be a good idea or not. And it has to hit so many of the boxes for the warrant in order to install that flashing arrow. And we do have around the district traffic signal modernization contracts. We have at least one every year, and we kind of rotate them around the district. I mean, obviously, the top of our district has the most signals on our state routes. So we have to kind of look at the needs across the district as we kind of prioritize looking for those.
So that's something that the towns and cities would have to wait for your study to look at a certain road?
I mean, you can submit if you have questions and particular intersections in mind, and we have contracts in development, you know, for our fiscal year 18, fiscal year 19, and I think even fiscal year 20 already in place. So it could be something that I don't know off the top of my head, but it could be in the works already. And you know, we have funding limitations and things like that, development lead time. So if you have particular intersections, I would recommend that you reach out either to customer service or myself, and we can look into that and see where your intersections might fall on our list.
Okay, I will do that.
And again, that's for currently, we have the program already. If not, doesn't mean we can't look. And again, we have a highway engineer, Alan Holdery, in fact, who is the expert on warrants, if you will. I mean, the guy can recite them. If you were here, he'd probably tell us what the crash date is at that intersection. He's very knowledgeable of our district. I will say that in a general sense, he is also very resistant to signal controls. Believe it or not, they actually create more accidents than they stop. It's an anomaly in my own mind, but it's true. The facts speak unto themselves. It's because people then trust lights and don't pay attention to their peripheral, and they go because it's green and they get hit. And that it's reality. So that's I think why warrants are so important, and the crash data and what the historical, I guess, is at an intersection before we move forward. But to Lindsay's point, if we already have a program, we can look. But even if we don't have a program, Alan can look at the data to determine if it should be. So please call, get a hold of us if you want.
Okay. I had, just to follow up on that, I may have misunderstood the information that I got because it's pertinent to your question, Tom. And that was that flashing yellow turn arrows would not be put in until the signal was worn out and replaced. That's the information I was given. When we asked for flashing yellow signals on some of our busy intersections when 49 was being redone, that response was that as long as those are functioning well and they're servicing well, we're not going to replace those until they need to be replaced. And then we may consider putting in the flashing yellow feature. So I stand corrected then in my understanding from what your explanation.
I think he was talking about a new adding, or actually installing a flashing yellow period. It doesn't, okay. Nothing exists.
Then I misunderstood the question.
I believe that was your question, correct? Or not the replacement?
Well, no, I mean, the lights are there naturally on a standard light intersection, and I'm just asking what the procedure would be to get them changed to a yellow flash.
That's what I was asking. Misunderstood your question, because I thought you were asking for the initial installation of the flash.
No, we've got, all the lights are there at every intersection already. It'd be a matter of asking to change it.
Well, that's what actually to that point prompted my question. Information relative to the transition.
Mr. Todd is correct. At least that's the standard, is that we usually, the answer has always been when those come around for modernization, if they're warranted, then they will be added. I can check back to see if that's changed at all, but I know that's kind of the general go-to answer typically.
Okay. Very good. They want to handle it through maintenance. Okay. It's a point of cost, a point of programming, right. Keeping our traffic point down. But excuse me for this, I absolutely misheard your question.
I
thought you were looking for an
no, all our intersections have lights already.
Okay, all right.
But is your question, you have three lights, right? I mean, red, yellow, and green would be the three. And are you asking to just make it flash yellow?
Well,
not change anything except the electronic programming of it, that it would be yellow flashing instead of a stop and go.
Right.
Is that?
The question would be to change the present light that now is red or green or turn, and we have one intersection right now that has when it goes to the yellow flashing light on the turn. When it will cut, in other words, it's a yellow crossing light.
If nobody's coming, it's still turn.
Will my warmly regarded colleagues allow me to say that I think that you fleshed out the matter? If there's a detail, you can certainly follow up in the interest of moving the commission matters along. I hope that they will be received in my request of that in the spirit in which I offer it. And I thank you. Thank you all. We are now on to the chair. Where are you? Is this for other business, Commissioner Cunningham?
No. I want to ask him a question or a comment. I was driving I-65 and the speed went down to 45 miles an hour. So I'm in the extreme right-hand lane where it's well barricaded on both sides, and everybody in the left lane is just flying down I-65 to the north, and I think the people that got behind me wish they hadn't gone in that lane. Is there anything being done to try and slow that traffic down? Because we did have a worker get killed in that area.
I would defer back to my previous point in construction safety and what we're doing in enforcement. We have off-duty ISP. We do our best to create somewhat, I guess, soft barriers to reduce, rumble strips, if you will, to remind people that they are in an area where they're be aware of their surroundings. But sometimes it's just a matter of we got to catch them, pull them over, and hit them with a heavy fine. mean, it's odd, here we are, and our Safety Awareness Week was within, 2-3 weeks ago, if that. So I guess a good opportunity to keep it in front of people, that people are working. In fact, they're standing within inches of traffic going by, and there's really nothing we can do beyond ticketing them. Once the barrels are in place, once we put the controls in place, once the signs are up, once every warning that we can imagine and engineer into a project. And I might add, there are some projects, and some don't know this, but I may have told you this, I don't know, but up to 50% of a project cost for an improvement can be in management of traffic. Consider that. That's what we spend on barrels, controls, advisories, the movement thereof. I mean, we have a major investment in that alone, in every project that you see move. So beyond that, all we can do is try to enforce what we put out. So just thought I would share that tidbit with you there, but it is a significant cost.
The chair asks if it is of urgent importance, without disrespecting the commissioner, and I want everybody to believe they are putative equals and have equal dignity here. Would the commissioner allow us to advance the agenda, or is your matter so meaningful or timely, I should say, it's not without meaning, that
Relate the speed limit to traffic lights, but it's definitely important.
The chair will recognize you for a question. We're going to change this moment in the agenda to colloquy with Rick Powers.
I'll second that. Well,
I gotta compose myself, excuse me.
Very briefly, first I want to thank Chairman for recognizing the concerns of many of us about the Pine Avenue situation and working on a resolution or potential response and inquiry into it. I thank Mr. Powers for looking into it as well. It's a concern that a lot of us have, and I'd have that same concern whether it was in LaForte or Valparaiso or anywhere else in our region. And I would also like to say, and I can make the motion at the next meeting if we need to, but to make that part of our congestion plan as well, update. I think like we did today for these projects, I think that's definitely related to congestion in the region, certainly in the north.
I thank you, Mr. Emerson, for that. If there's no objection, let's just receive that as information. The staff has heard that, and then you will review whether or not that's a permissible addition. But we'll absolutely receive that as a suggestion that has the weight of coming from the commissioner.
Thank you.
Is there anything further?
That's it.
Thus ends the colloquy with Powers. Tip your waitress as well. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for your patience and forbearance and for your willingness to be available this way. We do welcome it. It is now the time for other business on our agenda. Is there other business? The chair recognizes Mitch Beloga, who has that wonderful bicycle on his lapel.
Thank you. I will be brief.
The chair welcomes a comment.
Thank you. I don't believe there's any public comment here. If you would just give that time up. It's been years since I've done show and tell, and I thought this would be a great time to do that. NERC has been putting trail counters out in the region for the last year or so. Yes, we're watching you, but please understand that this trail counter, when people ask me what can this do, and they get into other things like, well, the internet is now, taking my credit card number. This thing is an infrared motion sensor that we've installed on about 4 trails, 12 locations in the region, and all it does is movement. What this is a nice little box here that we attach to a post or a tree, and we have the guts of it. You can see the infrared monitor on the bottom, and then the collection device on top. And what we're doing here is offering an opportunity for communities to join us on this. We purchased 12 of these counters last year with grants from different parts of the country and some CMEC monies. And now we're looking for the communities to help us out and supplement these trail counters. We have received 3 new counters from the town of Cherville. We have also received 6 new counters from the city of Whiting. And what we will do is work with you, have an MOU, or a memorandum of understanding prepared, where we will collect the information, we will keep all the spiders and rodents out of the box and keep it clean and provide you with your data every month. We just need you to buy everything else for us, which includes the counters and everything else that's in here. As I mentioned to you before, it is an infrared counter. It will not take your social security number, your credit card number, your birth weight, or your blood type. So please understand there is complete privacy with this box. In fact, you and a deer are going to be counted as the same thing on the trail. It just all depends. So I just wanted to make that clear to the commission while you're all here today. If you want any further information about this opportunity, you know where to find me, please see me.
Mr. Bowoga, could you give us a rough idea of the kind of money that the community has
Yes,
to
each of these counters that I show you here inside the box, they run $400. Okay?
That entire apparatus?
Well, everything else is another maybe $40 from your local Ace hardware store.
so
That's
that's
not, I'm not being paid by them, so, it could be Home Depot, I don't care. But you supply us this information, we go back into our little laboratory, put it together, and then we'll put it where you need it to be and report back the information. Any other questions? Okay.
I thank you for that presentation, and I'll bring that back to the fiscal body and ask if they feel like they can make a contribution. We certainly like to have the accounts on our bike trails. Is there any other business to come before the body under this item of business? Hearing none, the next item of business is public comment, and we do have, pursuant to our policy under our public participation policy, we have 2 members that have signed up, and I am going to ask the forbearance of the first, who is from Munster, whose first name is Pam, and because I want to accord you the kind of dignity that's appropriate, is that pronounced Eanes, or will you help me with your last name?
It's Eanes.
It is Eanes. Pam Eanes, forbear me that mistake. Welcome, and please offer your comment, I believe, on the subject of technical planning.
Hello, thanks for allowing me to speak today. My name is Pam Eanes, and I'm actually with Westlake Corridor Extension Project, the concerned families of that. And I'm here to ask the committee today if you guys would consider adding an ethics ordinance to your parameters before you allow money for different projects. So we have asked multiple different governing bodies to do this, especially with issuance to the TDD that are going to be developed. And there's already an ordinance, or this is already Illinois or Indiana code that is out there. It's basically what the TIF has now, and it has not been put in for the TDDs. And we just think it's good governance that you are not allowed to profit off of your own project. So if people are either politicians or they sit on boards where they have oversight of the project, they should not be able to profit off of it. So I'm asking that you add an ethics ordinance that contains COI, which is a conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eanes. I do know that in Title 34, the conflict of interest statute would apply to anybody who might profit directly in a value in excess of $250. For the lawyers in the room, I'll impress you and tell you it's a complete defense if it's less than $250 you didn't file disclosure. Conflicts of interest, interestingly enough, in Indiana aren't necessarily illegal. They're just, it's illegal not to tell. So disclosure is really the way. But we appreciate that edifying suggestion, and to the extent that it would be, that we think we need to complement the state law for that process, we'll certainly take your comments to heart. Thank you for offering that.
It pertains to the TIFs, but it doesn't pertain to TDD because it's a new animal.
Well, okay, we'll examine it, your understanding of that. If that is in fact the case, we certainly will look at that. My sense is that the law is sort of broad and applies to anything, whether it's been created in law or not. Something new in the law would be under that, but we will explore your understanding of that. And I thank you. The next person is our former commissioner, who was recognized this morning, George Van Til of Maryville, who wishes to speak about miscellaneous matters. Mr. Van Til.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, I want to just talk about this for a minute. It's 5,000 flower seeds. But I want to just mention something unrelated. Talking about all the things that could be cut or might be cut, I really hope that the commission uses the opportunity to educate the public about that. We all know that there's efforts to cut, but I learned, I try to follow things, but I learned this morning about some of them and the possibility or probability. And I just think people need to know so they can talk to their representatives. But anyway, this, I want to talk about this. As you, it's good to see you, most of you, I guess. And as you know, or may know, I was away for a while, a little longer than I wanted to be, but got a lot of time to think about things. and on many different subjects. And one of those things that I got to do some notes, is the things that I was able to be involved in that were positive for our area. And big things, and little things, and things that I never got a chance to do. And so how does that connect with this? This is a little thing, but it might be important. This is specifically for the people from NDOT and for Councilman Hardaway and Councilman Schmidt, but possibly for all of you in the future. If you could, picture, if you will, the intersection of I-65 and US 30 near Hobart. There, if you're on US 30, either direction, there's a median in the middle. It's cement, it's ugly, it's often has crud on it. There is some grass. It's probably 1,000 feet on either side. And it's just not a very good gateway into the community. And I don't know if this can be done. There may be something that I'm missing. There may be some policy, some rule against it. But I'd like to suggest that NDOT and/or the towns take that opportunity, that being the gateway to Maryville, to colorify it, to grow wildflower. Instead of growing cement, grow wildflowers. They're not expensive. This is 5,000 of them for $2 right here. And if the state would give the towns permission, or like I always used to like to do a joint project, to maybe take out some of the cement, or if not, one of the things that I think is great in Chicago, I'm sure you see it, are those huge bowls of flowers in the medians, in the streets, on Michigan Avenue and so on, a lot of other places. And if they don't want to take out the cement, put some of those bowls there. And then when it comes up to with flowers in it, then when it comes up to the grass part, take that grass out and put some of this in. This is not a lot of maintenance. This is a mixture of perennials and annuals. There's another thing you can buy. You can't probably see this, but you can just buy strips, green strips where seeds. There's thousands of seeds in these little rolls, and these are like about 10 inches wide. So I realize that some of those grassy medians are used for drainage. I'm pretty familiar with that kind of stuff. But on either side of where the water normally goes, you take out the grass and put in seeds. It seems to me that it just wouldn't be very costly, and mostly would be maintenance free. I'm not a big fan of grass, maybe from too many years of mowing it. We can do better. I was looking as I came in here today at the medians. It's pretty ugly. And one of the reasons I thought about this is some years ago, I was walking up to the government center every day, to the front. I would walk to the entrance, ugly cement, some weeds, some grass, nothing there. Go there today and see what's there. I haven't gone there recently, but I know that there's plantings there. There's some landscape. I got that started and got other people involved, and pretty soon the commissioners were involved, some master gardeners, and so on and so on. So it's that way today, and I hope that it's even better now. But I'm not even talking about putting plantings in. I'm talking about something a lot simpler, growing flower seeds. And I think that's a prime area to do it. It wouldn't cost a lot of money. And by the way, going back to the government, there was cement that was taken out by jackhammers because there was no reason for it to be there other than something had to be there. And I'm saying that it's better to have flowers than cement. Now, if you can just quickly move forward, even if you're not from Lake County, to the other great intersection on US 30 in Lake County, that's 41, Indianapolis Boulevard and US 30. Come east a little bit, and there's railroad tracks over the over US 30. Now, what Maryville has done, I don't think it did this last year, but I wasn't around. But what Maryville has done is there's a steep embankment coming from that railroad, and they put plantings in there from way up high by the railroad tracks down to ground level. And then nothing's grown yet where you can see it, but if you look at it carefully, you can see how they've worked it in there. But that's it. Then going away from when that is growing, the rest of it's going to be N. So if they or NDOT can start there going east, they can take out some of the grass, and I think it's all grass there. And then on the other side of the railroad, there's concrete and weeds and stuff like that. So we're only talking a few thousand feet. And I suggest those two because I think they're the most evident, at least that's what came to my mind when I was, going to sleep or whatever. But that can be done anywhere, and if allowed by state highway, and some of it's local, that can be done anywhere in this catchment area of this group right here. And I think it will really make a difference. Either way, and I think it would not be costly, and I would just ask this group, it takes some cooperation. So there's all the kind of movers and shakers in this room or on the phone that can talk together maybe. And if it seems like a good idea, that would be wonderful. If there's something I'm missing, oh well, I wasted a few minutes of your time, but I hope not. And thank you very much.
We thank you, Mr. Van Til. Commissioner Emerson.
I might be pushing my luck today, but I wanted to mention that, I want to thank Mr. Van Til for coming and mention that he did mention that he was my predecessor for 20 years and I can confirm, did a lot of really good things for the county, and I want to thank you for coming today to share that with us as well.
Thank you for that very much. That was the only people who, through our policy, applied. So Ms. Eames and Mr. Van Til, thank you for offering your comments today, and we will take them to heart. We appreciate them very much. It is now the time for announcements. I will never forget you, Commissioner Carnahan. I will look to you all the day you don't have an announcement, I will be stunned. But I did want to welcome our newest member from Michigan City. It will be for Mr. Hollenbeck as counsel to the commission to verify the procedures, the compliance with the statute. But I do know the mayor is the appointing authority in your city. He's made the appointment, and you are our newest member for Michigan City, and it is Councilman Beatry, is it not? Beatry?
Yes.
We welcome you here today. Thank you for being here, and we hope that you have a I always want to make as part of my announcement my appreciation to all of you. If I give any indication of how much I love being your chairman, I should dial that back. It's what I feel, but I probably ought to not let that enthusiasm be out there. I am grateful for all of the examples you set as leaders and letting me be, in my way, in service to you as a leader as well here. And I hope I say something close to that in every meeting because I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be in this place, and thank you for letting me do it. Are there other announcements?
I have one.
Oh, yes, I needed to recognize you. Is that Ms. Newland or Ms. Wright?
It is Ms. Newland.
Please.
Thank you. Just wanted to remind everyone that come July the 18th, I should have the dates in front of me, July 18th and 19th, Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration will be conducting our required certification review of the NERC transportation planning process. And this is on all the stakeholders, NDOT, all the transit operators, as well as NERC staff. And this is required to be conducted every 4 years. And so, believe it or not, it's been another 4 years, and we're going to be out there. We'll be having a public meeting for opportunity for the public to comment on the planning process. We will also make a listening session, make ourselves available for anybody on the full commission to talk to FTA and FHWA and give us your thoughts on the planning process. So I just wanted to let you know that, and with that, that's all I have.
Mrs. Lewin, thank you for that. Many of us who are sitting here have to be reassessed every 4 years as well, so we're comfortable with that timetable. Did anybody have a comment to Ms. Lewin's comment? Ty?
I was just going to ask, the timing was deliberately chosen to help. I think 4 years ago also it coincided with the commission meeting then on that Thursday. That's a Tuesday and Wednesday and then Thursday, which gives FTA and FHWA an opportunity to provide some initial comment after their 2 days, which worked really well 4 years ago. And I also agree, it's hard to believe it's been 4 years. Time flies when you're having fun.
Ms. Wright, are you still there? Did you have anything you wish?
I'm sorry, yes, thank you, Ty, for reminding me that, because we will report out to the full commission then on that July 20th date.
Very well. I did not mean to cut you off, Ms. Lewin. Thank you for your forbearance with me. Ms. Wright, are you still there? Did you have an announcement you wish to make as well?
Mr. Chairman, it's actually Enright.
Enright, thank you. Thank you for that. Ms. Enright?
That's okay. No, we're finalizing your UPWP, which we've sent now to Federal Highway, and once we have those approval letters back from the Federal Highway, we'll be sending you your supplement agreement for your UPWP planning funding.
Thank you so much.
That come in for May.
Thank you so much. Are there any other announcements?
Mr. Chairman, Earth Day is in a couple of days. Porter County Expo Center will, in conjunction with the recycling effort in Porter County, will have a big show on Saturday.
Thank you for that. I favor that day. I live here. I live there. It's a good place to live. I've seen many of you there as well. Mr. Carnahan.
All right, tomorrow at Tebow's, we'll have the Lake County Advancement Committee meeting. It's open to the public. Ty attends it occasionally. It's at 12 noon tomorrow, and the topic will be the Bi-State Kankakee River National Water Trail. Costs $20 to attend that. That's
But that's for your
tomorrow at
meal.
12 noon.
Actually, attending is free. The meal's $20, right?
Yeah. Right. And then the next thing, the Indiana Welcome Center is going to have Exploring the South Shore, Saturday, April 29th. Free admission from 11 to 3. There'll be magic shows, giveaways, games, prizes, local food, kiddie tractor pull, mascot and live characters, handcraft ice cream treats. April 29th from 11 to 3 at our Welcome Center in Lake County.
You had me at ice cream treats. Any other announcements? Hearing none, thank you for your sense of service to give this time for the day. There being no further business on the agenda, we stand adjourned.